welcome to another short sermon Sunday. And I'm so excited that you are here. I want to start off today's video with a question. And here's my question. Have you ever found yourself running away or out of line with what God told you to do? If we're all honest here, and I'll just be honest, there are a lot of times where I find myself running away from what God told me to do, running away from what He has assigned and called for me to do. Because the truth of the matter is, following the voice of God, following the assignment of God, following the instructions of God, it's oftentimes hard. It's not the easiest thing to do to be an ambassador of the kingdom. It's not the easiest thing to do what God has called you to do. And in fact, sometimes the easiest thing you can do, the thing that you can do that takes the most pressure off of you, is run away. And I know it's not widely talked about. I know it's not widely discussed, but the reality of it is, in this Christian life, sometimes running away is just the thing that you find gives you the most relief. And friend, can I tell you, you're not alone. You're not some outlier. You're not some unicorn one-off that you need to be ashamed of yourself for running. The fact of the matter is, we all run. We all find it within ourselves to say, I can't take this anymore. And so I need to flee so I can do it on my own. And I want to encourage you today with this story that I found in 1 Kings chapter 19. It's a story of this guy by the name of Elijah. And Elijah is a prophet of God, which means he literally speaks on behalf of God. And even Elijah, the prophet, finds himself in a situation where he's like Beyonce having his On the Run tour, because what he has done, how he has represented God, has now become a threat to his life, has become a threat to his future. And so he's on the run, and he finds himself in a cave outside of the will of God, outside of the plan of God for his life. And God shows up to him and asks him a specific question. He says, Elijah, where are you? And I find this question interesting because it's the exact same question that God asked Adam in the Garden of Eden after he had drifted away from what God had told him to do, after he had kind of fumbled and dropped the ball of what God told him to do. Adam, where are you? What do you do when God has to ask where you are? What do you do when God is looking for you? A lot of times we say, oh, I was searching for God and I found him in X, Y, and Z place. But we don't really talk about what happens when God has to look for you, because he called you to a particular place, he called you to a particular space, and you're just not there. He asks him, where are you? And Elijah literally tries to give God all of these excuses and make up all of these reasons of why he's not where he's supposed to be. God says, I need you to go to the top of the mountain, and I need you to get into my presence. And friend, can I tell you, when you're out of alignment with God, when you find yourself adrift from what he's called you to, the very first thing you need to do is get into the presence of God. I'm inclined to believe that God is not asking where you are geographically. God is not concerned about what state you live in, what city you reside in, what zip code you decide to have and be associated with. I think that when God is asking us, where are you? I think he's talking about, where are you spiritually? Because the only way you can adrift from what I've called you to is you're no longer connected to me. We're not having constant communication. And so God is like, where are you? I need you back into my presence. Because it's in my presence where you find clarity. It's in my presence where you find understanding. It's in my presence where you get instruction. He gets to the top of the mountain, and the scripture says that a strong wind came through, but God wasn't in the wind. An earthquake showed up, and God wasn't in the earthquake. And then the fire showed up, and God wasn't in the fire. Friend, can I tell you that I think some of the problem that we have is we're oftentimes looking for God in the sensation. We're looking for God in the bigness of it all. Does the pay raise match what I want? Does the move to the city match what I want? Is he 6 foot making 6 figures? Is she Coca-Cola bottle shaped and 5'4" and looking like an Instagram model? We look for God in the sensationalism of it all when he's saying, I don't need you to be sensational. I need you to be intentional. Because the scripture says that then a still small voice showed up and whispers to Elijah. And when he whispers, watch me, he asks the same question. Where are you? As a matter of fact, he says, why are you here? How did you get here? How did you get to the place where you started to doubt me? How did you get to the place where you started to think that I wouldn't come through for you? How did you get to the place where anxiety is the thing that feeds you instead of your faith fueling you for the future? How did you get here? That's my question to you watching me. How'd you get here? How'd you get to the place where you thought that God couldn't change your marriage? How'd you get here? How'd you get to the place where you thought that God couldn't breathe on your entrepreneurial ideas? How did you get here? How did you get to the place where you thought that God isn't still a healer, a provider, a way maker, a door opener, a mountain mover? How did you get here to where you thought that you needed to take on the assignment alone? Friends, and this question tells me that it is just as important to God where you are as it is what you're doing. And I need to encourage you that if you're going to do what God has called you to do, you've got to be found in his presence. You've got to be found where he called you to be. It's not time for you to find a new career. Do what he's called you to do. It's not time for you to find a new spouse. Do what he's called you to do. It's not time for you to find a new city. It's time for you to do what God has called you to do. Because when God shows up to him on the mountaintop in a still small voice, outside of all the sensation, outside of all the stimulation, you know what he tells him? Go back to where I told you to go. Go back to where I called you to be. And friends, I think that's what God is telling us as we're heading into the beginning of the week. Go back to where God called you to be. Go back to the blueprint that God gave you. Stop sacrificing your purpose and your destiny because of some opposition. Because God calling you to a thing means he already knew the opposition that was before you. And if he knew the opposition that was coming, hear me, that means he planned a way of escape. My friends, I hope that this has encouraged you. I hope that something was said or done to help you understand that you don't have to hide in the cave. Just be faithful to what he's called you to. Listen, if this at any way helped you, I need you to do me a couple of favors. Number one, hit the share button for me. Share this with somebody, because the person that you think has it all together, the one that you think is just balling out of control, they're probably running from their calling too. Would you hit the like button if this message has helped you? Would you leave me a comment below? I'm so excited that you decided to join us on River TV, because there's some incredible things that are to come, and I can't wait to announce them with you. And in reality, River is a part of me going to where God has called me to go. I'm so excited that you're going to be on the journey with us. Until next time, I'll see you in the river.